Today on State of the State, we're going to speak about China. We'll start by looking at their water situation. They have a shortage now, and it's becoming more severe. In 1954, China began what they called their war on water. In other words, a war on nature. They put in hundreds of dams, rerouted rivers, emptied rivers, drained water off to build what they wanted to build. And the building was fine. They have top-notch engineers. They did a good job of building it. This all started in 1954 because Mao wanted, in the longer term, to be able to take the water from the south and move it to the north, because 80% of all the usable water was down in the south. But the north has a lot of industry, and it has to be fed water. Now, the Yangtze River is a river that's as long as the Mississippi, and it has a basin of other rivers in it, and streams and lakes that are as big as the Mississippi. Give you an idea of the size of it. Now, the Yellow River, everything north of that, people eat noodles. Everything south of that, they eat rice. Rice is a water-heavy plant. In order to grow that rice, over half of the water in the south goes for that singular purpose. Because China has never increased the price of the water and the cost of the water to their farmers. After all, Mao said it, so it must be so, it must be right. So that's still in place. So why would you go to the expense of special irrigation or building new canals when the water price isn't going to go up? I could have, but they didn't. This is all leading to this great shortage of water in China. In the last 20 years, 28,000 rivers in China have dried up. That's right, 28,000. The flow of the Yellow River is now 10%, only 10% of what it was in the 1940s. Think about that. In the 1940s, the Yellow River had 90% more flow than it has today. So now it's only 10%, or the Yellow River, yep, only 10%. Now, China's Ministry of Water and Resources predicts a serious water crisis by the year 2030. That's only 8 years away. Now, this isn't my reading of the cards. This is China's Ministry of Resources. This is their official publication. The year 2030. Serious water crisis, i.e., turn on the tap, there isn't going to be much water. And of the water that China does have available, if you take all the cities across their entire country, 90% of all of the water beneath those cities, what you call the aquifer, is polluted. Now, when you have a severe shortage of water, you can't get enough out of your rivers, where do you go for it? You drill wells down into the aquifer, and you start pulling that water up. Now, for a while, maybe decades, that'll work just fine until you pull out too much. What's too much? In the great city of Shanghai, which is the financial capital of China, and it has been for 1,000 years, the city has sunk 2 meters. It's enough that the Great Wall there is starting to crumble. Bridges and dams are having difficulties. The ground gets soft, bridge sinks down, and not uniformly. So there's a lot of engineering that goes on just to keep things working. Be like your house sinking into the ground, or like living up in Houston. It's a problem. When China built this system of water, transferring water from north to the south, it was a huge undertaking. No engineering project in the history of the world was ever this big. That runs 2,700 miles, 2,700 miles to move that water. Did it solve the problem? There's the question. And decades to build. When it started out, they thought it cost them $5 billion. Decades later, they finished. It was $100 billion. Government cost overrun. What's new? But did it do the job? It does not solve the problem. What it did was it provided 25% more water to the city of Beijing and not any other surrounding cities. And that's what they got from it. But it sure looks great. Okay. 70% of the river, 70% of all the water coming out of rivers is polluted. And some areas higher. But we'll take that as an average. So here we've heard a lot of talk about desalination, and why don't we just do that? Well, why doesn't China do that? They have great engineering programs, huge, huge ones. You could say, well, they did it in Israel. In Israel, they built a whole series of desalination plants that now provides 80% of the water that they drink every day. Solve their problem. Surely China could do it. Well, if they didn't put, and it probably could have. However, there's a little glitch. China dumps 3.53 million tons of plastic into the ocean every year. That's right, 3.53 million tons of plastic directly into the ocean. And where's this water going to come from? They're going to desalinate? Oh, from the ocean. What does the desalination plant have? Lots of filters. Gee, plastic clogs them right up and it doesn't work. So they have failed on that footing. To the north, which is a slightly different subject, but the same thing. They had planted out a forest. Very famously, 1 million trees were planted. Most of those are gone now. And the desert has now moved further down south than it's ever been before. And it's gaining speed. There's no such thing as climate change, but there is. The most recent year for which we have data, which was 2019, 80% of the water was used in the south, 20% of it got to the north. It's mostly eaten up by, they need food and they need energy, and they both require water. How would you look at water? There are different levels in their quality tables, and these are their tables. Level 1 is nearly drinkable. They have the least amount of that. Level 2 is slightly polluted. Level 3 is you can swim or you can fish in it. Number 4, it's for industrial use only. And for 5, irrigation only. And for level 4 and 5, human beings cannot have contact with it. Now, when you reach the point, water stress is less than 1,700 cubic meters per person per year. And that is 90% of what China is today. And that's why history is so important. When you look to the past and you see the decisions that were made, you'll see how they affected everything that is being done today, from population to agriculture to the needs of their cities, and why you shouldn't shortcut. Why are they dumping the plastic into the ocean? Because it was convenient and it was cheap. What are they doing about all their wasted material today? They're virtually given up on landfill. They're dumping it in the cities around them. Go 10 miles out from the city and start dumping. There are a number of cities that are ringed by this. That's the first part of what we'll cover with China. They have a severe water problem coming inside of 8 years. They will be below the 1,700 mark. They won't have enough water. Every human being there will not only go into stress, they're going to start dying in large numbers. Because after stress is death. And when you see in 2030, when it happens, they'll say, surely they could have done something about it. And you would be right. There are steps that could be taken, but is there the willpower to do it? We'll keep an eye on this one because we're all going to see the result of it. Have a good day. Hope you're informed a little. Enjoy the weather.